There is a weapon so ancient, so devastatingly effective, that the powerful have quietly kept it from the masses for centuries. It is not money. It is not status. It is not even intelligence, at least not the kind they praise in classrooms or celebrate on stages. The weapon is silence. Not the silence of someone who has nothing to say, but the silence of someone who has chosen not to say it. The silence of a predator that has already decided the outcome before the prey even suspects it is being hunted. And once you understand why silence wins, every single time in every power game, at every level of human interaction, you will never speak carelessly again. Most people have been conditioned to believe that the loudest voice wins, that the one who argues the hardest, defends the best, fills every uncomfortable pause with explanation and justification, is the one in control. Society trains you from childhood to speak, to raise your hand, to make your case, to prove yourself with words. Schools reward the student who talks the most. Workplaces promote the person who never stops pitching. Relationships are sold on the idea that communication, constant, exhaustive communication, is the foundation of connection, and somewhere in all that noise, you lost the ability to stay quiet when it mattered most. But look around at the people who actually hold power, the real kind, not the performative kind that crumbles when no one is watching. Watch how they move through a room. Notice what they do not say. The most dangerous people you will ever encounter are not the loudest. They are the ones who listen more than they speak, who observe more than they react, who can sit in absolute stillness while the world panics around them. Their silence is not emptiness, it is architecture. It is the structure of someone who has built an interior fortress so strong that nothing outside can touch it without permission. Machiavelli understood this. He observed that the prince who speaks too much reveals too much. Every word is information. Every explanation is a map of your thinking. Every justification is an admission that you care what someone else thinks. The moment you begin to explain yourself, you have already surrendered a fraction of your power, because you are telling the other person, your opinion of me matters enough to change my behavior. You are handing them the lever. You are inviting them into the control room of your mind and pointing at all the buttons that move. Think about the last time someone disrespected you. What was your instinct? Most people want to respond immediately, to correct the record, to defend their dignity out loud in front of witnesses with volume and fire. And that instinct is understandable. It is human, but it is also exactly what the other person expected. They knew how to shake you. They knew the buttons. They pressed them, and your reaction confirmed everything. It told them you felt the sting. It told them they reached you, and whoever can be reached can be controlled. The person who says nothing in response to disrespect forces the other person into a deeply uncomfortable position. The insult lands in silence and begins to echo. Without a reaction to feed it, it has nowhere to go. It turns back on the one who threw it. The aggressor begins to question themselves. Did it land? Did it miss? Is this person even bothered? Is this person above it? The silence becomes a mirror, and most people do not like what they see when forced to stare into one without distraction. This is the first principle of the silent power game, silence as redirection. When someone tries to destabilize you with words, with accusations, with provocations, the most powerful response is no response at all. Not because you are afraid, not because you have no answer, but because you have decided that person is not worth the gift of your reaction. Silence communicates that clearly, without ever saying a single word. It communicates hierarchy, not through arrogance, but through the simple, devastating act of not being moved. Now understand the second principle, silence as intelligence collection. While others are talking, you are learning. Every person who speaks reveals themselves. They reveal what they fear. They reveal what they want. They reveal the gaps in their logic, the insecurities behind their bravado, the desperation beneath their confidence. Most people are so busy performing for others that they do not realize how much they expose with every word. When you stay quiet, when you ask a single question and then go still, you allow the other person to hand you the map to everything they are trying to hide. Miyamoto Musashi wrote about perceiving what cannot be seen with the eyes. The surface conversation is almost never the real one. People speak in layers. The words on top are polished, socially acceptable, designed to manage impressions. Beneath those words is the actual message, the need for approval, the fear of rejection, the hunger for dominance, the ache of loneliness. The quiet observer reads both layers simultaneously. The reactive person reads neither. They are too busy preparing their next statement to hear what is actually being said. When you train yourself to listen at that level, you become something rare. You become the person in the room who actually understands what is happening, while everyone else is caught up in the performance. And that understanding is power, not the kind you announce, the kind you use, the kind that operates invisibly, that shapes outcomes without leaving fingerprints, that positions you precisely where you need to be without anyone being able to trace exactly how you got there. The third principle is silence as pressure. Human beings are biologically wired to fill silences. Pauses in conversation trigger discomfort that most people cannot tolerate. They rush to fill the void with words, and in that rush, they often say far more than they intended. They justify, they backtrack, they reveal. You have experienced this yourself. A conversation where the other person went quiet, and suddenly you found yourself explaining things you had no intention of explaining, clarifying positions you had not even considered, apologizing for offenses you were not sure you had committed. That is the power of silence working against you, and you can learn to wield it intentionally. The next time you are in a negotiation, a difficult conversation, conflict, try this, ask your question, then stop. Say nothing, let the silence sit. Watch what happens. The other person will begin to fill it, and in that filling, you will receive information, leverage, and advantage that no amount of clever arguing could have produced. The most skillful negotiators in the world understand this. They ask less, they say less, they hold the discomfort longer, and they consistently get more. There is a deeper layer to this. Silence is not only a strategic tool, it is a statement about your internal state. The person who speaks constantly is often driven by an unmet need, the need to be understood, the need to be validated, the need to be seen as intelligent, capable, significant. They fill silence because silence feels like invisibility, and invisibility feels like irrelevance. Their talking is not really communication. It is emotional regulation through noise. It is the attempt to manage how others perceive them by never allowing a gap through which doubt could creep. The person who can sit in silence without discomfort has already resolved that need internally. They do not require the room's approval to feel real. They do not need your validation to know their value. And that independence, that freedom from the constant hunger for external affirmation, is what makes them unmanipulable. You cannot leverage what someone does not desperately need, and the quiet person has stopped desperately needing things from you. Machiavelli said, "A ruler who reveals his mind entirely hands his enemies the blueprint to his defeat." This is not merely political advice. It is a fundamental truth about the economy of information. Every piece of your internal world that you share publicly becomes a potential weapon in someone else's hands. Not because everyone is your enemy, but because you cannot know in advance who will be. The person who knows your fears can use them. The person who knows your insecurities can exploit them. The person who knows your desires can manufacture false versions of them and sell them back to you at a price you did not agree to pay. The solution is not paranoia. The solution is selectivity. You do not need to become cold. You do not need to wall yourself off from genuine connection, but you must learn the difference between authentic intimacy, which is sacred and rare and built slowly with people who have proven themselves worthy, and the compulsive oversharing that most people mistake for openness. One creates depth, the other creates vulnerability that has not been earned. The fourth principle of the silent power game is silence as consequence. When someone crosses a line, the instinct is to confront, to argue, to punish with words, or worse, to punish emotionally, in ways that make the damage visible and therefore reversible, apologizable, negotiable. But the most powerful response to a serious transgression is a silent withdrawal, not a dramatic announcement that you are withdrawing. No explanation, no warning, no final speech designed to make them understand what they are losing. You simply remove your presence, quietly, cleanly, permanently. This is devastating in a way that arguments never are. Arguments invite counter-arguments. They give the other person something to work with, to refute, to bargain against. Silence gives them nothing. It is a door that has been closed without a handle on the outside. They cannot negotiate with it. They cannot apologize their way through it. They are left alone with the absence of you. And absence, true absence, forces a reckoning that no amount of confrontation ever could. You have seen this in your own life. The person who screamed at you in anger and then came back within days because the emotional storm had passed. And the person who simply disappeared quietly without drama and whose disappearance you still think about years later. One created noise, the other created consequence. Noise fades, consequence remains. The fifth principle goes deeper than strategy. It touches the core of identity. When you stop speaking to fill silences, when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop performing for the approval of the room, something unexpected happens. You begin to hear yourself for the first time. The constant noise of social performance has been drowning out your own signal, your actual thoughts, your actual preferences, your actual values, which may be very different from the values you have been loudly claiming in order to be accepted. Silence creates space for self-knowledge in a way that constant engagement never does. The samurai traditions understood this. Musashi spent periods in complete isolation, not because he was hiding from the world, but because he was sharpening the only weapon that truly mattered, his mind. A blade that is never rested, never cleaned, never given space to cool, eventually becomes useless. The same is true of the human mind, the relentless stimulation of modern life, the constant connection, the infinite scroll, the pressure to have an opinion on everything at all times, is producing minds that are noisy, reactive, exhausted, and easily controlled. When you choose silence, even briefly, even deliberately, you are engaging in an act of resistance against a system designed to keep you reactive. A reactive mind is a predictable mind. A predictable mind is a controllable mind. The person who steps back, who observes before responding, who chooses when to speak and when to stay still breaks that cycle. They become the variable that the system cannot calculate, and in that variability lies their freedom. This is the final truth about silence and power. Silence is not absence, it is not passivity, it is not defeat. It is the most active, the most disciplined, the most strategically intelligent choice a person can make in a world that rewards those who shout loudest while secretly respecting those who say least. The most powerful people you will encounter in your life are not those who dominate the conversation. They are those who dominate themselves. Their silence is not what they hold back. It is what they have become. You have been speaking your entire life, defending, explaining, justifying, filling every silence with noise. And where has it gotten you? Now try something different. Go quiet, observe, wait. Not from fear, not from weakness, from the absolute unshakable certainty that you know something the room does not yet know, that you see what others cannot see, that you are 5 steps ahead and have no need to announce it. Let your silence speak. Let your stillness be the loudest thing in the room. Let them wonder what you are thinking, what you know, what you are about to do. Let the mystery of you be the most powerful weapon you have ever carried, because it is, and you have had it all along. You simply forgot to stop talking long enough to use it. If this reached something inside you, if something in these words found the part of you that has been exhausted by performing, by explaining, by trying so hard to be understood by people who were never really listening, then you already know what to do. Go still. Build the fortress inward. Let the silence be your seal. The world will adjust to you once it realizes you are no longer adjusting to it.